Hello, I'm Dr. Jeanette Raymond, psychologist, psychotherapist, and relationship expert, here on my next video about mourning a loss. And today I'm going to talk to you about mourning the loss of a pet, and particularly when you are a child, it means something very different. And I get a lot of parents getting worried about their children who've just lost. Mostly it's a dog, usually, because a dog is a better companion than a other kind of pet. So the parents get very worried that the children are withdrawn, they're depressed, they don't want to go to school, they're not eating, they're kind of withdrawn, and the parents naturally want to know what to do because in their mind, the dog has died, the family is sad, they've all kind of gotten together, they've had a burial, kind of a funeral, and then they get over it. But the child who had the pet doesn't. And so it's really important to understand what this pet means to a particular child. If you're an only child, that pet can be your companion, the person you tell your secrets to, the person you share your grievances with, the person you know will come and jump all over you. I'm calling it a person because that's kind of what the pet is. It's another person because it has a personality and there's interaction between the dog and the child. So it becomes the substitute person for someone who'll always be there, will listen, will know when you're sad, will lick your face, will play with you when nobody else will, when you're an only child. Or even if you're not an only child, if you have siblings that don't want to play, the dog will always play with you. The dog will always be at your side. The dog won't get angry with you if you push it away. The dog will also be the someone in your life when you're feeling like your parents don't understand you or they're being particularly harsh with you on something or they're not letting you have your say. So the dog, it becomes the other half of that child. It becomes the transitional object from life in a protected place with the dog, feeling secure and safe within the home, to the outside world where they may be getting bullied, they may be called names, maybe they're not so good at school, maybe they're not so sporty, and so they don't have many friends. The dog helps with loneliness. The dog helps, it grows alongside the child. It's somebody they have grown with, so it's a very big part of them. And to just think of it as a pet, like a fish that you can, see dead in an aquarium, or some kind of lizard or bird or something, it's not the same thing. Dogs give affection. You can feel their heartbeat. You can feel their warmth. You can put your hand through their fur. You can tickle them. And they can play with you. They can show you how much they love you by wagging the tail. Not all human beings can do that. They don't wag their tail for you all the time. They get angry with you, they get mean with you, they retaliate, but dogs don't. So mourning the loss of a dog, particularly for a child, is very, very, very traumatic. And the way in which you as parents can ensure the least amount of trauma is to honor the sacredness of that relationship. So the first thing you need to do is to invite the child to participate, obviously if they're old enough, if they're able to speak, to think about how they want to bury the dog, or maybe the dog had cancer and needed to put down, or maybe the dog had some bone disease, or they were wasting away with some other kind of illness and they need to consider whether to keep treating the pet or to put it down. So the child has to be involved. So let me give you two examples of children who have desperately needed their dogs and how terribly difficult it was for them when the dog died. So one client came from a very abusive home, and the only living being that he could rely on to always be there was his dog. He went with walks on his dog, with his dog. He played with the dog. He slept with the dog. So the dog became kind of like his protector and his friend when nobody else wanted to be his friend, because often he was unable to go to school because he was dirty and unkempt, coming from an abusive home. And when he was lonely and upset and afraid, the dog was always there to comfort him. He continued having this pet even after he got married and had his own children. This was the love of his life, in a sense, the being that transcended all his life, from the time he was very small, through his teenage, through his adulthood, through his abusive childhood, into his marriage, and into his becoming a father. The dog was always there. When his wife wasn't willing to talk to him or listen, the dog was there. When his kids got on his nerves, the dog was there. They could play, they could go for a walk, they could sing together. The dog was always there. And so one day, he realized that the dog was not well. The dog was very, very old as well, really limping, not eating properly, kind of not wanting to move. And he knew the end was there, but he couldn't deal with it. He didn't tell me about it for a long time. So we didn't have the opportunity to do the pre-mourning to the death, right? So he didn't want to deal with it. So he kind of blocked it out. But by the time the death came and he had to bury the dog, the mourning was severe. It was traumatic, because the one thing that had been the thread through his life, the one thing he could rely on to protect, to comfort, to make him feel good, to raise his self-esteem, to always be there, to make him giggle and laugh, to hear all his stories, to listen to all his experiences of bullying and abuse and rejection by girls later on in life. All his headaches about getting married, the disappointments in life, how difficult it was for him to be a dad, and so on and so forth. That all came out. And it took months and months and months for him to get over it. So even in adulthood, the loss of a pet is serious. And we had to literally make some rituals to help him. And if he didn't even want to have another pet, it took him 2 years to even think of having another pet. And eventually he rescued a pet, and it's now become a new relationship, but not the same as the old one, because it can never be. In a second example, there's a 7-year-old who was an only child and who had a beloved pet that had been there since he was born. It had belonged to his parents before he was born. And he knew nothing else. He didn't have any other kids. This was part of his being. The dog and him became great friends. They played. They went, trips together. They went on vacations together. They slept together. They watched TV together. They did all sorts of things together. And of course, when the boy was sad, when he felt his parents didn't understand how lonely he was being an only child, when they forced him to do stuff in school that he didn't want to do, it was the dog that comforted him, that he could put his head on and cry, that would absorb all his tears without making him feel like a ninny or a sissy or weak. And this dog was run over by a car, and it was absolutely traumatic, obviously for the whole family, but particularly for the boy. He felt that he hadn't protected his own pet, the pet that had always protected him and had been there for him. And he was very depressed, went into withdrawal. Parents didn't know what to do. They tried everything, but nothing worked, until I saw them all as a family, and I helped them understand that the boy felt like he was going to upset his parents more if he expressed his grief openly. So what I helped the parents do was to understand that they should be open with their grief so their son could be open with his. They could do that together, and they could set up a kind of a shrine somewhere in the house that would have pictures and memories and videos, whatever it was, that reminded them of their beloved pet, that it was a family thing, and the boy could do his own, that they'd have a special place in the garden that would be the dog's place where they could go and talk to the pet, particularly the boy, and not make it something he was afraid of because it might upset his parents, or make him feel like, he could never get over it and he was a bad person for not protecting his dog from an oncoming car. So there was a lot of work there, a lot of rebuilding until they were able to get a couple of other dogs that the boy chose, a particular breed that they'd had before that they liked, and it helped. But the rituals of mourning, the shrine, the pictures, the videos, the dog's toys, the dog's bed, whatever it is, they need to be kept until the child or the adult is ready to let go. It's very, very important to make it less traumatic, and it has to be in the child or the adult's own time. And the dog has to be treated as if you've lost your best friend, because it is the best friend of the child and maybe even an adult. It's the best friend, it's the comforter, it's the protector, it's the healer, it's your companion, it's your safeguard from the hostile world and the bullies. And it's something you can feel that someone wants to be near you. They want to cuddle with you. They want to lick you. They want to touch you. And the affection that you get from the dog is something irreplaceable. And you just can't bury the animal and say, let's get on with it. So I hope very much that this has been helpful to you as parents and maybe an older person who's lost a pet recently or as a child. I look forward to hearing your comments about this particular topic. And until I see you next time, bye for now.